This program has been sponsored by Takeo Industries. Takeo Industries, the finest in alleviating your existential dread for over 7 decades. That is Takeo Industries. Call Takeo Industries today at 1-800. Last Wednesday, I had the pleasure of interviewing the band Pareidolia, the New York City band, or at least co-interviewing them with the host of Japan Nick's rock and metal Pandemonium, Japan Nick. And unfortunately, the interview is kind of long, like very long, like extremely long. It's actually a conversation, really. I shouldn't even call it an interview. It went a little bit more in depth than that, so I'll be splitting it into 2 parts. The first part I'm going to air right now. This is the first hour of that interview. Pareidolia.
Hey, what's up out there? This is Japan Nick's Rock and Metal Pandemonium. Tonight we got in store for you guys Pareidolia from New York City. Now, each of you guys, can you introduce yourselves, tell me your name, and the position you play in the band? On the end.
I'll go first. Sure. I'm Chandler Mogul, singer.
Steve Dedane, guitar.
Ryan Bertone, drums.
And I'm Jam Caldwell, bass.
Awesome. Now, when did each of you guys pick up your first instrument?
Oh, man. I guess for me, it's considered late, maybe 14. Started with guitar. Just we were fortunate that my high school even had a guitar program. And I just picked up a Jimi Hendrix album, and then that was it for me. So I've been playing ever since.
Yeah, for me, I started playing music in a kind of a strange way. I was up in Canada for a hockey camp, actually. Wow. When I was young, I was really into hockey, and I was up in Canada, and was staying with a friend of the family, and pretty much they had one room with a drum set and a bed in there. So as soon as I saw that drum set, I'm like, first of all, I'm staying in that room where the bed is, and I'm going to play those drums as much as I can. So just kind of been, that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, I probably started around like middle school, and like I didn't even intend to start playing music. I just had a good friend who was like one of my best buddies that played guitar and said, hey dude, you should do this so we have something to do together. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started playing pretty much ever since then. But of course I was started as a bassist, so it's all right.
Nice. I didn't start singing until I was about 22, or maybe about 15 years now, about 10 years professionally. Once I started doing it, just never looked back.
All right, and this one's from me, but my first question, and this is probably going to be the most important question you're going to hear all night. How often do any of you actually experience or suffer from pareidolia?
Nice. That's one for Steve to answer.
For me?
The name was his idea.
Well, actually, Jam and I kind of decide on this, but I think it's something that we all experience, right? I mean, I think a lot of people don't even know what the band name really means. It's not a made-up word, but I think Jam is better at explaining it than I am, but I think it's something that we all experience. So when we tell people what the actual band name itself means, they say, oh, I guess I have experienced that quite often, and I didn't really realize that. So I guess, Jam, if you want to kind of give them a little
Yeah, so, like, you know, our band has a very unique name, and what pareidolia actually is this is sort of the technical definition. It's a psychological sort of phenomenon where your brain makes up meaning where it sees something random. So, like, an example of this is, like, seeing Jesus on a piece of toast. Or like, you know, it's like the ink blot test is like people say, oh, it looks like this. And what it ends up doing is it tells you more about the person that's interpreting it than it does, what the actual object is. And, you know, music in many ways sort of has the same effect on people. And that's kind of one of our overarching sort of themes in our album and some of our music, too, is it's more about the listener than it is the musician.
Exactly.
Now, can you tell me about one of your songs? I'm going to pick Betrayed Within to start off.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of going along with what JM said about this sort of like visual phenomenon, like I wanted the music to sort of almost conjure up some of these images in a way. So a lot of the songwriting in the band starts with almost like an instrumental like backing track in a way, like almost like a karaoke track. And sort of with that song, we decided that was going to be our single. It sort of fit the format of what I think a single should be, but it had a lot of these elements in it. So in the song title itself, it gives you that sense of what's going to happen. So the music has to fit that. And so I wanted there to be like in the beginning, like this sort of sense. I guess maybe some of the listeners will hear it for themselves, but like the beginning is like very haunting, has sort of like an uneasy sense about it. The music video is very haunting. It's sort of like something's wrong. Like you can feel something's wrong, and it sort of builds on that a little bit. So we wanted that to elicit sort of like that sort of image. But then when I give the backing track to Chandler, he doesn't really know maybe what my intention with the song was. Yeah. And it's sort of, he has his own ideas that he comes up with when he's writing them. So I don't give him any direction, say, hey, do this, I want it to be about this. But it's funny how he sort of manages to get that
original intention.
That original intention just from the music itself without any sort of like preconceived notion to it.
That's chemistry right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit of an extension to that. So the name of your debut is Denied Truths, considering the concept that pareidolia is essentially like a visual lie. I think that's pretty creative, but some of these songs seem to have like a little bit of a socio-political context to them. Does the album title reflect that too in any way?
I think the original title, Denied Truths, was actually a working title for a demo of Leave Me Alive, which is our second track. And I wrote that around the time that the Armenian Genocide Memorial was taking place. So if you listen to the media clippings in there, you'll kind of see a lot where those are taken from. You won't get it on the first listen or second or even third probably, but it's definitely in there. So I think like for listeners in general, I think when they hear the record, they'll see there's a lot of that sort of stuff in there. And Chandler's like lyrics are very sort of like layered in that way that you can't really maybe get it on the first pass, but that's why when people get the album, we have the booklet with the lyrics in it. They can really sit and like read through everything, and they can actually get kind of all the meaning that's going on behind it. So
I've always liked doing that with albums. I used to like, reading along with the, and find out what the singer was saying and find out what the lyrics meant. Before I became a singer or musician, that was what connected with me. Like I didn't know how to play guitar, piano, bass, drums, or whatever. So let me just connect with what he's saying, And I think that's what a lot of people do, if they're musicians or not. Right. Want to connect with the lyrics.
And on that note, let's get into Betrayed Within. Here we go. You're listening to WMSC 90.3 with Japan Nick, and we have Pareidolia in the studio tonight. Now, dudes,
Whoop, whoop.
I noticed some months back you got a shout out from Jason Becker. Tell me a bit about how that happened.
So I think pretty much everyone in the band listens to Jason or has listened to him at some point.
Yeah,
but
we love Jason.
he's the man. But like he's someone who was like my biggest influence, I think, growing up. And I've just always been in contact with him since I was like younger. And he's very accessible, at least in my experience. And he's coming out with a new record. And the funny thing is like, I think we can all speak from experience when we say like putting together an album is hard, period. It's very time consuming and it involves everybody. But when you have certain limitations, like Jason has ALS, you would assume that they're not making music anymore. The thing is, he's still making better music than most, able-bodied people. So he's coming out with this new record, and it was around that time when there were talks that I may do some classical guitar work for his record, but we were just talking about it, and so I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but at least he definitely saw some of my videos, and he shared one of them, and it wasn't even of me playing a Jason song, but it was just, I guess, a song that he had liked, and he just put that out, and it was he was crowdfunding for his, I think maybe Kickstarter for his record, so it was just kind of like promoting it in support of that, and it was cool though. I mean, any shout out from someone like that, I mean, he's legendary, so it was very cool.
Yeah. I think that was the Winery Dogs.
It was
the Winery Dogs
exactly,
stuff.
yeah. And he knows all those guys. They all know Jason. Everyone knows
Yeah,
Jason,
yeah.
so it was cool. It was very cool, especially someone you look up to and they give you a shout. It means a lot. It's always nice to get one, period, but when you get one from someone like that, it's very cool.
Is it possible, like, for you to actually get maybe some guitar work on Jason Becker's album? Or is that maybe not possible at this point in time?
It depends what he writes. So I talked to him about it, and I said, it's he's seen me like videos of me playing classical guitar, and which is something that I don't do a whole lot of on this record. But he said if I happen to write the parts, because he has Chris Broderick playing classical guitar parts now, and he's also a fantastic classical player. A lot of people don't know, but he said if I write the parts and I get one, I'll send it to you. So it just depends what he writes, and if it doesn't happen, it's any little thing coming from him means a lot. So it's whatever happens. Yeah.
So what was the Guitar World story like that you got involved with?
Oh, that was just so I endorse DR Strings right now, and so we actually I did a video shoot for them, just promoting the band, and we played a couple tracks of ours. We did Light of the Angels, we did Redeemed, which are some of our favorite tracks, and I was just at a video shoot for them, and Mark Nunez, who does the videos for Guitar World, he happened to be the one doing the videos for that, and so he pulled me aside, and he was like, yeah, I think you'd be really good for like these Guitar World videos. So one thing led to another, and eventually he said, why don't you come down to the headquarters, we'll shoot some videos, and then we'll see how it goes. So it was very successful. We did the Bet You Can't Play This series. So it's basically like a contest for guitar. All right, yeah, for guitar players, and so I just
It's after 10.
It's after 10, yeah.
Just keep going.
I'm just checking. Just checking. So so pretty much like that's what it is for guitar players. But like growing up, I do have Jason's on my column from the original magazine on my wall, like Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, all those guys, they all do them. So it's sort of like a rite of passage for guitar players to do one. So I was like really like honored to even get to do one. So I spent like weeks coming up with different things that I think would challenge some players. And then we shot the video, they did articles about it, and it was very cool. So we're doing more content this year. Probably next few months, we'll probably shoot more videos for that, and we'll just see. I'll have to try and stump more of the fan base, but we'll see what we can come up with.
And the YouTube commenters.
And the YouTube trolls. They're very,
Lots of really good talent.
Yeah,
on YouTube.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, and you guys also played the Guitar Gods Festival in Miami last year. Tell us about a little bit of your initial reaction from being able to open for the likes of Yngwie and Steve Vai.
Yeah, Yngwie and Steve Vai, obviously two huge influences on us, and so when we got asked to play it, we were obviously really stoked on it. So it happened really quick. What was it? Only like within a week that they announced it to us.
Yeah.
So we had to get like a flight real quick, get on down there, and it was my first time being in Miami. That's where it was, in North Beach, and we just had a great time. We got to play this really nice stage in front of a lot of people. Nicko McBrain actually was running the back. Actually, he showed up in his pajamas. Not even kidding. Like a white shirt and like pajamas with like, I don't know, there might have been Simpsons characters on it or something like that. Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. You know what I mean? Not rock star like whatsoever. I was able to talk to him about some drumming, and he gave me some pointers. Obviously told him he's a huge influence on me. Stuff with Power Slave obviously influenced my drumming. And we took a picture with him too. Just a real nice guy, and a very good experience for sure.
Did he tell you anything about no double bass drum?
No, he didn't, but he did say he actually enjoyed my playing, which probably is the greatest compliment I've gotten from any musician at this point. So definitely forever grateful that he said that and that he actually liked our songs.
It was pretty cool because we're playing this song, and he's literally like 5 feet away, in his pajamas with his arms folded. So we're just like, we're rocking out on stage, and he's just kind of standing there. And, you don't know what was going through their head. So after the song, he wanted to take a picture with us. And I was like, no, this is the other way around. Like, we should take a picture with you. Like, we're not anyone compares to him. So, but it was cool. He really enjoyed the song, and he loved Chandler's singing, and he liked the instrumental behind it. So it was a very, very cool experience.
Yeah, no, it was great. I don't know what else to say that you haven't said already, but it was that was really our first show, actually, too.
I think that there's something to be said for having your first show opening for like Yngwie Malmsteen
and Steve Vai. Yeah.
And
we got to see Gus G was playing down there. He's a friend of mine, and he killed it down there too.
Guys from Ozzy's band, Rudy Sarzo, was down there, and so it was like normally your first show should be at a bar, but it was actually it was a really, really nice venue, outdoor venue, so you could hear Yngwie. So one of the funny things is that when we're at the sound check, Yngwie kicks everyone out, but the thing is he has like 9 Marshall full stacks there, and you can hear it 3 blocks down the street. But we were not allowed to be in the actual venue itself. But it was really fun because the weather there was really nice out, fun to be outside. Plus, you're playing and everyone was there having a good time. The place was packed, and it was great. You couldn't ask for anything more for like a band, especially for your first show as a band. It was great.
It was funny how there were 10 entrants, 10 contestants or whatever that were able to play, and the other 9 were just solo guitar players. They didn't have a band; they were playing the backing tracks, and we were the only we were the only band there. And despite all the crazy stuff that was going on, there was a little bit of disorganization going on behind the scenes, and it wasn't the most organized event, at the foot of it. But we were the only ones that ended up forcing our way on stage to get a sound check before the 10 of us played, and then the other guys didn't end up getting a sound check, and it proved to be catastrophic for some of them, but for us it ended up being much good spent time, and we really killed it. Yeah.
That's what happens when you're from New Jersey, you gotta get what you want when
you
you want
just
it.
force your way on and just make it happen, But
another cool little story about when you're saying we went on stage for the sound check. When we forced our way up there, Yngwie and Steve Vai were still up there, sound checking together.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
we were sound checking on stage while they were up there too.
I was scared out of my mind because the last thing I need is Yngwie to look at me and be like, "Get off this stage now."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But the cool thing was,
at least you got a story.
Yeah, the cool thing about it was they were sound checking and they were trying to kind of like outdo each other.
Yeah.
So like, Steve Vai would get this nice little guitar fill going on, and then Yngwie's like, "Oh yeah, watch this," and then he like, put the guitar behind his head and like spin it around or whatnot.
I'm pretty sure that's something that would cause a hole to rip in the universe.
Yeah.
No doubt.
In the space-time continuum, there's just like a rift now. But it was funny because during that sound check, literally all the other bands were scared out of their minds to even go on stage because Yngwie and Steve Vai are on stage. But we spent a lot of time, a lot of money, effort getting down there. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm not going to at least get a sound check. And I'm glad we did, because one of the Marshall heads that we were supposed to use was not working.
No.
And so my thing wasn't working, and I'm like, I can't get it sound out of this thing. So I figured maybe it was my cable, and so I'm going nuts. I was like, no, maybe it's my pickups. What if it's my guitar? Like, I'm thinking like every like possible thing, and I have like passive pickups. Like, why would it not work? But so Steve Vai's guitar tech is Thomas Nordegg, who's like legendary, right? He's like probably one of the most famous like guitar techs that's out. And so I looked at him and I'm like, it's not working. And he's like, you must come with me. So he pulls me to the side and he's like, no, it's the cable. And he takes the cable. So he brings me, he's like, we must use the 7th string. And he's like he took Steve Vai's thing off of his rack, guitar. And he's like, we might be able to use this. And I'm like, no, you're going to get fired. You can't, don't touch that, you can't touch like his guitar. So
you must use the force.
Yeah. So he like takes my guitar apart. He's like looking at all the pots. He's checking everything. And it turned out that it was just the amp itself, because it was rented from SIR, the head. And that thing's seen like World War II. So we
Free at that point.
Right, yeah, at that
Ingve.
point, yeah, with this, with all the arpeggios, and so eventually we got it fixed, which was good, because all the other bands benefited then, because otherwise someone was going to go on before us, because we were the last band to play, or last act to play, and they would have not had an amp working, so it worked out for everyone.
Everything we did worked out. We just marched on there and took charge.
It's a hell of a time, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
I believe you guys have a DVD that you're working on. How's this coming along?
I just had I know I have an instructional DVD I was working on with Guitar World, but it was mainly going to be for like classical guitar, like finger picking style guitar, which, like I said, I didn't really get to do a whole lot of on this record, but I've been working on new material and I've been trying to incorporate a little bit more of that in there. But we do have like video footage from the actual show, which was a lot of fun. But in terms of that, that was mainly just for guitar only. We're trying to put that out maybe sometime this year, maybe next year. We don't have a date for it, but I do know like at least some of the content video-wise will be up later this year.
Tell me about your song "Lie to the Angels."
Lie to the Angels?
Yes.
That's just a song that ended up sounding a little bit like Dawkins, I guess. I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
That's
But
actually
like the good era Dawkins.
Yeah. That's funny you ask about that. That's probably probably one of my least favorite songs on the record. It's a great song, but nice way to promote the album, right? That's just a tune that it just came together with some cool lyrics and some cool ideas. Steve had a cool riff, and he sent me, like Steve said earlier, a lot of the songs were born out of him sending me a track, an instrumental track, which catered to a vocal melody being present, which was not yet written at the time, and which my job was to come up with. And that one just basically I had this cool melody for the chorus, and it was kind of unconventional. Into the dark, something, and I didn't know if it was going to work, so I went in the studio and tried it out. I'm like, this could be a 50-50. I'm not really quite sure if this is gonna work. It could work, it could not. But then we did it, and it worked. And I think just because of some mixing and production issues or whatever, the song ended up having a little bit of a different sound than some of the other songs on the record. Maybe not to the casual, average ear, but the song ended up sounding a little different, I think, just because of some mixing stuff. But overall, it's still a very cool song.
Something is lurking tonight, winking the fire in
Now, guys, next question, I guess. How did you get onto the Brave Words site?
That was a good friend of mine who's worked with, done some other, done PR for some other projects that I've done. His name's Chip Ruggieri, very, very pretty well-known PR guy on the East Coast, and he's been doing it since the 80s. We hooked up with him. I called him up, and he did a PR campaign for our record, and along with the Brave Words site, we've been on Ultimate Classic Rock, and had a bunch of other reviews, interviews, and good press for the record. And in the wake of, I guess, the bulk of it was last year, and it's basically a standard kind of thing. When you do a record, you gotta have some push behind it.
Definitely. Now, for Rolling Stone, what was that experience like?
So that was actually the first outlet that ever sponsored our music, that had our music on it, which was also really funny because I think most bands too, like especially new bands, don't ever get on there, especially progressive or rock or metal bands.
You seem to jump a lot of steps, it seems, between this and
we do. Yeah.
Guitar Gods.
Skip all the early stuff.
Yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of time to waste, so we just were like, let's just go
for the goal. Shoot for the moon, you land in the stars. That's what you do.
So what happened was, in order to get on there, it was almost the same thing with Guitar Gods. Is that there was like everyone wants to get on that ticket, right? And a lot of people want to get on the website, but like many bands and guitar players had submitted content to them as part of this like Next Young Gun competition, and D'Addario sponsored that as well, and they were looking for like the best sort of unsigned guitar players, pretty much just for US only. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the finalists in that, and our track Redeemed was on there, so people got to hear our music for the very first time on a really cool platform. Like D'Addario pushed it on their Facebook, Instagram. Rolling Stone had it on their website for, several months. And it was a really cool thing where it's sort of like, where can we check out your music? And I'm like, oh yeah, go to rollingstone.com. It's on there somewhere. So it was a very, very, I guess, unique thing that we even got to be on there, because if you were to go on their page now, it's a lot of it is pop, sort of gossipy, like almost like music that's going on, folk. Yeah, it's totally not our style of music, but it is an enormous, probably the biggest media outlet, music outlet that there is, and so that was strange, but it was also a very unique experience to get that.
Like, after Rolling Stone, what is it like the next thing you really want to grab, like, into your roster of accomplishments, I guess?
Well, we're still, it's nice when you get those, but we're still a very far away from what we want to reach, which is just, I guess, a lot of the people within our genre of music. So it's nice to get the shout out, but we're always looking to reach as many people as possible. So that could be in the form of playing shows, could be in the form of getting continual coverage on what we are planning to do. I mean, even being with you guys tonight, this is great. So
social media,
the game I think has changed. I think for music in general, where getting the word out on your band is easier in the sense that we're all connected, we're all on the grid, but at the same time it's harder because so many more people have access to that. It's flooded. It's competition is very flooded and saturated. So you have to really be bringing a product that cuts through that. And if you can, it's very hard to get known. But we're happy with what we've been doing, and we still have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's just from the journalism side of it, like being a college radio broadcaster, there's so much competition you deal with as well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, then you deal with the internet radio thing too, and it's a real difficult task, honestly, just keeping your name out there in the media.
Yeah, it almost forces you to like reinvent yourself to stay relevant in order for people to keep coming back and listening.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. Do you feel like in today's market there's just so many bands that are just so similar to each other? Or is it that's not something you really need to deal with that much?
Well, Ryan plays quite a bit actually with a lot of bands. So
Yeah, I'm playing quite a few shows. I play in 3 different type of bands. This one, Pareidolia, obviously one of them. Playing another band, a hardcore band called Silence Equals Death, and an alternative rock band called Control. So I'm seeing a bunch of different bands and a bunch of different scenes. And you're right, a lot of it is bands copying off of other bands, especially in the hardcore scene. There's a lot of the same type of sound going on. But there's still a bunch of, there's always 1 or 2 bands each show that, really bring something different. And there are still a lot of good bands out there, especially in New Jersey. We have such a great scene here. Always, I've been playing in the New Jersey scene since 2003, and just there's always been so many great bands that come from here, whether it be, Census Fail, whether it be, Midtown, I think they're from New York, New Jersey. You get so many great bands from around here, Coheed and Cambria, obviously, and it's just great to be growing up in this area, just all the talent in New York, the greater New York City area, and, we just want to keep playing, more shows and getting ourselves out there so we can, be one of those bands that, differentiates ourselves and the other bands.
Do you have any live shows set up in the future?
Not currently, but I have been talking to a few promoters. It's really hard, really to get us all in the same room a lot, but I definitely want us to get some shows, whether it be, at Mexicali, whether it be at Dingbats. I really like the studio, Webster Hall. There's a lot of good places, and I've been able to get a lot of connections through playing with all the bands that I play in. So I've been reaching out to a few. I haven't getting responses. It's just trying to click on the same day. We were going to play a show, I think it was the 16th, in 2 weeks at Dingbats, but it got canceled. So we just really we're hungry. We want to play some shows. Well, we're really excited about this Denied Truths album. We really want people to hear it.
The thing is, we do have the offers to play, and it's there. I know Chandler too has a lot. He knows a lot of people as well in his network, and we can play the venues when we want to. But also for us as a band, the ticket has to make sense for us to play on too.
Our first show was the Guitar Gods show, so we got to go. It's got to go up from there.
Exactly. Yeah, a couple more shows we have to skip. Yeah.
Would you be planning, because of the whole idea of Pareidolia being behind the band? I'm assuming there's a big visual element. Would you? Are you considering maybe a visual element to your shows in the future or something like that?
Yeah, we're working on that. I mean, we're working on everything really. We're working on as far as our live set, and our whole show as a whole. So that's something that, obviously the band does lend itself to a lot of visual candy, I guess you could call it.
Because we want the live performance to be like an experience too, because that means all the sort of things that you hear and excess in the background in the album, we want to preserve that for the live show too. So whether that's something as simple as a sample or a stem, we still want that being played through the speakers and through the house. So we want, when people see the record, it's preserved as well as it can be. And I think a lot of bands have a different sort of interpretation as to what the live show should be. It should not be what the record is, should be something totally different, or maybe keep it exactly the same. But there's a lot of really cool stuff on there that fills out the record that we don't want to lose either. So getting the live show that's an art in itself, I think. But we are going to be playing very soon, at least in the local New York, New Jersey area to start with. So, and we do have the venues that we can play at. So people that can follow us on Facebook, they'll definitely see that, we will be putting shows up in the near future.
Would you ever want to have something where you have a backdrop with movies playing in the background, and you'll have certain clips picked out? I know a band I loved, Rigor Mortis, would have certain pictures of horror movies and wild scenes from those things going on. Would you think of maybe something a bit more psychedelic going on in the background?
I guess it depends what they're on.
Depends what they see.
Yeah. No. What they see, yeah.
But it's it's interesting, because when you combine the visual elements sort of with the music, I think also that sort of has to make sense with the song. We don't want to put something up there just for the sake of having it be shiny and flashy. We want it to really add to the experience of the music. And I actually saw Dream Theater at Hammerstein Ballroom last year, and they have quite a bit of visual sort of component to their shows these days. And you'd think that their music is so full already, but I found it very nice. I thought it was kind of a cool addition. It complemented the music very well. It sort of furthered the plot. It kind of
was this for the Astonishing, or was it for the album before that?
No, this Steve, what album was that? That was for
no, it was for their. I believe it was for their self-titled one.
Yeah. Oh, then I was actually at that show at the Hammerstein.
Yeah. So a lot of angry girlfriends there.
Yeah.
It was all three. But it's very cool how they stepped up their game. I wasn't particularly a fan of the Astonishing album, but the live show, what the work they put into it was astonishing.
It was great. Yeah.
It was a lot, but and I think that's really cool because you spend like a lot for the ticket, and it's now you're really getting not just the performance, but you're getting a whole show with it on top of the show that you paid to see. So like
even like straight metal bands that usually don't go for all the pomp and circumstance of live performances and like arena shows, arena rock, where this is sort of common. Now people expect more. They want mixed media. They want, if you're spending your evening with somebody and you're going to shell out, $20-$40 for a ticket, you want to get a good show.
Totally. Yeah, visual. I mean, for a while now, the visual has been just as important, if not more important than the music itself. Be that as it may, you have to compete with that.
More of that interview with Pareidolia in a second.
I'm Michael Slovis, the Director of Photography for Breaking Bad, and you're listening to 90.3 WMSC.
This program has been sponsored by TKO Industries, owner of the flagship Tentacle Emporium. That is right, the Tentacle Emporium. The Tentacle Emporium, hosting the finest in tentacle pleasures since 1986. That is the Tentacle Emporium. Call 1-800... Last week, I aired the first portion of an interview I co-hosted with Japan Nick of Japan Nick's rock and metal Pandemonium with the NYC band Pareidolia. I'll be playing the second part of that interview in a second, but first, here's the opening track from Pareidolia's debut Denied Truths album. This is Quench the Fire.
Shall
tell me about the NAMM show. No pressure.
Oh, so I guess for a lot of people that are listening, if you happen to be musicians, that's like the show to go to if you're sort of in that industry. And I went this past January, and they have it every year. They have it twice a year. They have it in the winter, which is the big one, and they have the summer one, which is like sort of smaller. But I went this January, and it was awesome. It was at the Anaheim Convention Center. It's always there, and it's basically like Javits Center times 3, and it's enormous. And pretty much everyone you can imagine, every distributor, manufacturer is there. They're selling all their new gear, and a lot of cool booths. Ernie Ball, John Petrucci was there. Steve Vai, Steve Lukather from Toto was playing. So that in itself was cool. A lot of great performances. There was almost, if you did have to pay, it was almost worth it to go. It's not really open to the public, though. I think they did open it on the last day. But it was really awesome. You can spend a whole day there just on one floor. And they had a lot of surprise guest appearances. They didn't announce. John Mayer showed up. He was on the top floor. He was selling some new amp with PRS. So if they announce this, the place will be even more mobbed than it is. So they don't even announce some of this stuff. Stevie Wonder was walking around, which was cool. He actually, some guy was playing in one of the hotel lobbies, and he just joined him randomly, which was like really cool. Mm-hmm. And so like a lot of weird stuff happens like that you may not expect. And there are a lot of people who I've known just on the online guitar scene that I ran into that I've either been in touch with over the years, or we kind of know each other. We've seen each other's names in the netherworld of the internet, and we ran into each other, and it was cool. It's a cool place. You run into a lot of people there. I ran into some kid. I went to like Berkeley like summer camp like over 10 years ago. I think like 2004. I think it was actually. We saw each other there, and I was like, oh man, like just randomly. So it really, really crazy sort of things can happen and run to a lot of folks there. But it's definitely the type of thing where if you are a musician and you haven't gone, it definitely should go at some point. It's very, very fun.
Didn't you also get private lessons from Ron Tall from GNR?
He was one of my first guitar teachers. Yeah. Well, he's actually he's he lives in New Jersey, right off of Route 1. Yeah, he has like this. It's like a studio there, and he was one of my first guitar teachers, and which was like terrifying, because like he's like probably one of the best players I could think of off the top of my head that's still active, and I was 16 at the time, and there's nothing you're gonna show him, especially even now. There's nothing I could show him that he hasn't seen before, but at 16, it's even more terrifying. But he's funniest, nicest guy. Most incredible player. I mean, his ear is ridiculous. He can play everything, and he just can show you how to do anything on the guitar. It's freakish.
Yeah, we're on a record together, he and I.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What were you on?
This project called the Feckers.
Okay. Meet the
Some guy in New Zealand put it out, and it's just
Go
different
on.
artists on different tracks. So he's on he's not on the track with me, but he's on another track on the same record.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do this thing that's a little different. I'm going to add some potpourri questions with... Three questions from the Magic Crystal Ball. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it. Yes.
Ready as we're gonna be.
All right, question number 1. What is your greatest fear?
Is that for each of us to answer?
Yeah, each of
Space
you.
aliens.
My greatest fear is
Horrifying.
I don't. God, that is on the spot. I'm really not afraid of anything.
Liar.
I know. God. I guess I'm afraid that the idiocy of people is going to do the whole planet in. Yeah. That's a pretty valid fear, right?
that works. That works.
Yeah, right. I think they already have.
We need a population cut, so I mean, like, it's partially a good thing, partially.
On a more narrow spectrum, maybe some EDM DJ chopping up our song.
That's actually probably even worse than his.
Yeah.
Hey man, if they're paying, that's fine.
And I use the term DJ there loosely for what they do. But,
Some guy in a pink tracksuit with an iPod.
yeah. They'll pull a bigger crowd than anyone, though, probably.
Yeah, right.
Really, I mean, probably just like a world without music. Like, what if like all the files just like went away one day or something like that? You know what I mean?
That's why we have CDs and vinyl.
I think that's.
What if that went away too? I don't know.
I think you have a premise for a movie now. Yeah.
Yeah,
MP3s can go away. They can.
Yeah.
Like I know there was one.
No, like all electronics just vanish off the face of the planet. You don't have a way of playing.
Nothing
any
works.
of it.
No electricity. That's even. There you go.
There we go.
Now we're getting into
no electricity.
fearful things.
That's my vote.
Wouldn't that show like a couple years ago? Like it was on for a season, like all the electricity in the world went out or something. I think it was a TV show.
Yeah, buying Alaska.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now you.
Lobsters.
Okay. All right. That works. Question number 2. If you had to pick a dream venue to play at some point, what venue would it be?
Well, I think I probably speak for all of us when I say MSG.
I was just gonna say
Right.
the Garden. Yeah, that's the one.
Take a bus to the gig and be home, right? You know,
Yeah.
be home by midnight. I don't know.
On a more realistic level, I love St. Vitus. That's my favorite venue going right now in Brooklyn. Granted, a lot of the bands they book there don't really sound too much like Pareidolia, kind of more of the black metal punk bands they book there. But I've been to countless shows there, and I just love it there. The bar is sick. It's small enough, but it's clean enough, and you're really great crowd. It doesn't take much to pack it in either.
It's a cool place.
No, but it's a very friendly place. But even for our style too, like for bands that have like even that sort of like hard metal, sort of like even shreddy type of edge, they're very friendly to those sort of like up and coming like independent bands too. And that's a very cool venue.
Yeah.
They've been running a lot of free shows there. Like every week, they run free shows, just like get people in the bar and stuff like that. So maybe we can hop on one of those one day.
For sure.
They do all different genres too.
And I'm throwing a plug for Hammerstein Ballroom. I like that.
That's a great venue too. Yeah.
It's a great size, not too big, not too small, great acoustics. I've never seen a bad show there.
Yeah.
And finally, question number 3. If a movie were to come out based on denied truths, who would you ideally have directing said movie?
Judd Apatow.
Depends if we want a lot of explosions. I guess Michael Bay. I don't know.
You know what kind of explosions they would be.
Yeah. Or maybe a twist ending. Get M. Night Shyamalan on it. I don't know. I guess it depends what we're going for.
Yeah, I could see him on that. with
Yeah,
Denied
maybe
Truths.
M.
Yeah,
Night
that would-
Shyamalan. That'd be cool.
I'm sticking to my answer.
Yeah. And we're denied. Yeah.
How about you direct it?
Yeah. Actually, JM just got the job, so yeah.
I like how you feign the crystal ball there. I like that.
Imagine, just
Can we get one more crystal ball question?
one more crystal ball question.
You like it.
The crystal ball is coming up blank. I'm sorry. It is
Denied.
It is telling me one question. It is what is your social security number? But obviously no one's gonna answer that.
867-5309.
A prince from it. Yeah.
You need to put in your birthday too, though, to make it work.
It's like I have $500 million I want to share with you, but you must give me your social security. It's like, okay.
So, nowadays, what is like your favorite equipment to use for typical shows these days?
Yeah, what have you been gigging with?
I've always been a Pearl guy since the beginning. I just love the sound. Right now I'm doing a Pro Master Series, cymbals, Zildjian Customs all the way. Just the best sound for the price. Very durable. So it's pretty much Pearl and Zildjian. I go between ProMark and Vic Firth sticks. Vic Firth's been really breaking on me a lot lately, so I might switch over to ProMark permanently. But Pearl and Zildjian all the way for me.
What do you?
Yeah, for in terms of actual guitars, I play Ernie Ball and Ibanez, both beautiful instruments. Really love them. Been playing both for years. And amplifiers, I like SWR. I've been playing them for many years as well. But honestly, for live sound, it's almost all direct out anyway. I play with a Line 6 processor, just take a direct signal straight out of there to the board in most cases.
For guitar, it's a big controversy right now because you have like two sides of the spectrum, and like people get into fists over this. It's sort of like, am I going to have like the straight ahead tube amp, or am I going to have the amp modeler? And it's sort of like a lot of guys now are using Axe effects, using the bias head, even Line 6. You're using Line 6, but a lot of the guitar guys are using the Helix now, and they're sort of or even Kemper profilers, because they don't want to lug around the heavy equipment, worry about tubes blowing on a show, which has happened to me before. I'm sure everyone here has had equipment malfunction, and it sort of eliminates that as much as it can. But I play with Mesa Boogie all the way. I just believe in old school like tube amps, so I play a Mesa Mark V live. I use a Mark IV though in the studio, and like any variation of like a 5150. But live, it's almost always Mesa 4x12 with Mesa head. Could be the 5, it could be the 4, but usually Mesa Mark V.
Well, obviously,
yeah, singer. You don't really have
singer
a whole lot.
Don't use a lot of equipment, but hey, no. On the contrary, I gotta have an SM58 microphone to hand, and I never play with a loud rock band such as this without my in-ear monitors, Future Sonics, and I use a Sennheiser G2 unit, which they don't make anymore. They make the G3s now, but the sound really pristine. So
that's
like
like
the most equipment you'll get out of me.
Yeah. So warming up like with these sort of bands, like, you know, because you play with us, you play with other bands, maybe not as heavy, but, you know, and I know you can hear yourself in the in-ears. So what is that like for you warming up, just to be able to get to that level?
Warming? What do you mean?
Yeah, warming up right before the show, like, you know,
when I do my warm-ups.
Yeah. Like what's that ritual like? Because
sure. Yeah, good question. No, it's very important for a singer to warm up before a show, before any performance, just to get the vocal cords loosened up and everything. Because if you're going in singing high B's and C's, you know, you gotta be ready. It's like a muscle, just like anything else. Just like if you're a runner, you know, you got to stretch before you run. You can just run, then you're gonna feel sore for a couple days.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Even like when we play, like we never like warm up in front of each other. We're all like in our own like rooms doing our own thing.
You do it in a private place where you don't feel judged, so you can really focus. Because you got to really like as a singer, you got to really focus on your scales, and you know, so you can, you know, get it working
be isolated,
properly.
yeah.
You know, it might be a little different with the guitar.
Everyone has their own
but
rituals, you know. But
yeah, and then you know, and then when you come on stage for the first song, you know, you're ready to go. You know?
Yeah.
Thinking about the rest of 2017, can you tell me about some of the new compositions that you have in the books that maybe you just haven't decided to get into the studio yet to record them, but you're thinking about them sooner or later?
Well, some of it was actually released because I did a campaign with DR Strings for a product line that they've had out for a couple of years now. They're drop-down tuning strings, or DDT. Actually, the instrumental track for that commercial they did, which they actually put in Guitar Center stores across the country.
The one you did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
The instrumental for that is actually one of the new songs I was working on. I sent that to Ryan. It's actually, everyone has a copy of it now. But
yeah, it's a good tune.
It's a killer tune. It's very like a lot of the new stuff we're working on is much more technical than what this is now. There's a lot of technical stuff on this record, but the new one is even, I think, a little bit more pushing the envelope there. So if people do look up DR Strings, which actually are a local New Jersey company, they're based in Emerson, but they're international, but their headquarters are in Emerson. I did for that commercial, we did a new song on there. So some of it's actually out there in the internet already, but people may not know what it is. But that's one, and I have a couple others sort of like demoed that are in the backlog that I'm kind of holding on to. We want to do things differently, I think, for the record, the next one, because when we did this one, we recorded them all kind of as they came. So one song would come,
in different parts, exactly,
yeah,
a little disjointed in that way.
But it actually really worked out, you know, because all the settings were the same, but even at different times, each song has its own sort of sound to it. But we're gonna wait till we have 10 tracks to record. We're gonna wait till all 10 are demoed and done, and do them on just like crank them out maybe over the course of like a week or 2 weeks, and just record everything at once, which is maybe how a lot of bands do it. We just didn't do it that way. So I think next time around, which may be towards the end of this year, we'll have maybe about another 10 songs. Then we'll just sort of go in and start recording those and writing maybe vocal parts, and we'll get around to doing that. But it's definitely it's on its way, and there's quite a bit written already.
I see. Now, social media, how do people get your albums, and when is the next concert people are going to see you guys at?
So getting the album, two ways, depending on your preference. If you want physical copies, you can go to cdbaby.com. You can type in Denied Truths, which is our album title, and you'll see Pareidolia, our record, will pop up first. If you want physical copy, which is a very cool physical copy if you're into that. And the record was mastered for both mediums. So if you like CDs, it was mastered for that. If you like iTunes, it was mastered separately just for iTunes. And you'll see that sort of like label on there. Same thing in the iTunes store. I believe there is another artist with, ironically, Pareidolia. It is not us though. We only have one record, so anything else with that name is not actually us. But you'll see if you type in Denied Truths in the iTunes store, you'll see us pop up there. So if you want the digital download, you can get that there. In terms of live shows, I think like we mentioned before, expect to see something on our social media, on Facebook, about playing either, I think, probably Dingbats or at Mexicali Live. So either one of those two locations in the more immediate future, maybe sometime before summer starts, we'll have a couple of shows there, and people can definitely stop by and check us out.
And like us on Facebook. It's Facebook/The Pareidolia Band.
Yes.
That's the official one.
That's us. And then
If you can spell that.
It's Pareidolia is the band. But we also have the official music videos up on there too. I mean, it's on YouTube as well, but if you want, you can check it out there. You can share it and comment, do whatever you want. But
on Facebook and YouTube,
Facebook, also,
Betrayed Within video.
And that too, and also some guitar playthroughs for any guitar shred heads fanatics, so they can see how some of the songs were played, some of the riffing and soloing on there. So whatever your preference is, you can check that out.
Really appreciate it, guys. Now, tell me, at the end of the interview, what is the Pareidolia song you guys really need to showcase at the end here?
How about
Redeemed.
Redeemed, yeah.
Redeemed's a good track.
Yeah.
We played that song for the Guitar Gods festival, and that went over very well. So Redeemed's cool.
Redeemed or
This is the Nicko McBrain approved song.
Exactly.
the Iron Maiden seal of approval.
All right.
Check it
Here
out.
we go.
I'd like to thank Pareidolia for the opportunity to sit down and chat with both me and Japan Nick. Their debut album, Denied Truths, is out on CD, as well as digital download on iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, and wherever else digital music is sold. For the purposes of this program, this interview has been edited. The complete unedited version of this interview can be heard on Japan Nick's SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/JapanNick.